Hello and welcome to my YouTube. This YouTube is remembering the year 1977. Jimmy Carter was president in 1977. I was 33 years old and working for Control Data Corporation in Washington, D.C. My office was just 3 blocks from the White House. The Control Data Corporation clients that I personally worked with included the White House, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. House of Representatives, the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Defense, the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, the Department of Labor, and FEMA. On January 17th, 44 sailors and Marines from the USS Trenton and the USS Guam are killed as a result of a collision in Barcelona Harbor, Spain. Turns out I know something about that harbor. I was in the Navy, and for a year I was stationed aboard this ship, the USS Ashland. And we were in Barcelona Harbor over 6 times during our cruise in the Mediterranean. Barcelona Harbor is very narrow. It's about 2 miles long, so I can easily understand how this aircraft carrier and this other ship could collide. On February 4th, 11 CTA, that's the Chicago Transit Authority, commuters are killed when an elevated train derails in central Chicago. On February 14th, Jimmy Buffett releases Margaritaville. And at the end of this YouTube, I'm going to play and sing Margaritaville, one of my favorite songs, certainly from that year. On February 18th, it was the first test flight of the Space Shuttle Enterprise, which was mated to a Boeing 747 shuttle carrier aircraft. On March 9th, the Hanafi siege. Approximately a dozen armed Hanafi movement members take over 3 buildings in Washington, D.C., killing 1 person and taking 149 hostages. This group was led by this man, Hamas Abdul Khalis. He was an outspoken critic of the Nation of Islam and the black Muslims. And he wrote 50 letters and sent them to all the Muslim churches, condemning Malcolm X and accusing him of being a liar and a thief. In retaliation, a group called the Black Mafia came to Washington, D.C. to kill him. They came to his home, but he wasn't there, but his family was. And they murdered 7 members of his family. His daughter survived, but she had severe brain damage, and his wife survived, but she was left in a permanent vegetative state. And so 4 years later, in 1977, he took over 3 federal buildings, demanding justice for the murder of his family in 1973. On March 27th, the Tenerife disaster. It was a collision between a KLM and a Pan American Boeing 747s at Tenerife, Canary Islands. It killed 583 people, and this becomes the deadliest accident in aviation history. Can you imagine 2 747s colliding? On April 4th, Southern Airways Flight 242 crashes on a highway in New Hope, Georgia, killing 72 people. On May 16th, a 20-passenger helicopter falls sideways at takeoff from the roof of the Pan Am building in Midtown Manhattan. 4 passengers are killed by the turning rotors, and a woman at street level is killed by a falling blade. On May 25th, the movie Star Wars is released. And thus it began. On May 28th, the Beverly Hills Supper Club in Southgate, Kentucky is engulfed in flames, and 165 people are killed inside. On May 29th, at the Indianapolis 500, A.J. Foyt becomes the first driver to win the race 4 times. When I was a young boy, my father was involved in stock car racings, and he met A.J. Foyt several times, so this was my family's favorite driver. A.J. was from Texas. My mother was from Texas. I was born in Texas, so we were big A.J. Foyt fans. On July 13th, New York City is hit by a complete electricity blackout lasting through the following day that results in citywide looting, robbery, and arson. On August 4th, President Jimmy Carter signs legislation that created the United States Department of Energy. On August 10th, David Berkowitz, who was a 24-year-old postal worker, is arrested outside his Yonkers home as a suspect in the 6 Son of Sam murder cases. He later pleaded guilty, and he is now serving 6 consecutive life sentences. Son of Sam, what's that? He claimed that his next-door neighbor's black dog, whose name was Sam, told him to murder these people. That was his original story. He later recanted and said, "Nah, I just made that up." On August 16th, Elvis Presley dies at his home in Memphis, Tennessee. This was a huge story. And this is a picture of his funeral procession. Here's his hearse. He's buried at his home, and it is visited by tens of thousands of people every year. Graceland. This is a bigger picture. His entire family is basically buried here. His mother, his father, some of his children, his wife, when she passed away, she's also buried here. On September 4th, the Golden Dragon Massacre involving rival Chinatown gangs takes place in San Francisco, and 5 people are killed. The Golden Dragon is a Chinese restaurant, so they came in and they slaughtered these 5 people eating at this restaurant. On September 5th, Voyager 1 is launched. Its mission was supposed to be 4 years, and it was going to visit the planets of our solar system. Well, it did that, and it just kept going. As of last month, it is 15.6 billion miles from Earth, and it's moving at 38,000 miles an hour, and it will reach our nearest star, which is Proxima Centauri, in 20,000 years, and there's nothing to stop it. This thing is just going to go for tens of thousands of years. Now, it's lost most of its power, and most of its instruments, I think, in fact, all of its instruments have been turned off, but it's still moving through space. On September 7th, The treaty between Panama and the United States on the status of the Panama canals, they are signed by President Carter and the President of Panama. The U.S. agrees to transfer control of the canal back to Panama on December 31st, 1999. And we did. So as of that date, Panama owns and operates the Panama Canal. On September 15th, fiber optics is first used to carry a telephone call. And now fiber optics is everywhere. On November 6th, the Kelly Barnes Dam, which is located above the Tuca Falls Bible College in Tuca, Georgia, fails, killing 39 people. On November 22nd, the TCP/IP test succeeds, connecting 3 ARPANET nodes in what eventually becomes the Internet Protocol. So the fact that you're watching this right now is thanks to this experiment. On December 13th, a chartered Douglas DC-3 aircraft carrying the University of Evansville basketball teams to Nashville, Tennessee, crashes in rain and dense fog about 90 seconds after takeoff from the Evansville Regional Airport. 29 people die in the crash, including 14 members of the team and their head coach, Bob Watson. I live in Indiana. I've been to the University of Evansville several times when I worked for Control Data and also when I worked for Apple. What was introduced in 1977? Well, a little thing called the Apple II computer was introduced on June 10th. And this was really significant in my life because I joined Apple Computer 4 years later. I'm Dr. Maury Reese, and I was Apple's Senior Education Development Executive for 30 years. The Atari 26,000 is released in 1977, a great game computer. The Radio Shack TRS-80 was also released that year. So it was a big year for little computers. Victoria's Secret is first opened in Palo Alto, California. The first Chuck E. Cheese restaurant opens in San Jose, California. Medical MRI was invented. This uses magnets and radio waves to look inside the body. Magnetic resonance imaging. The sports bra is introduced. The Chia Pet is introduced. For those of you who have never seen one, this is a little animal made out of clay, and it has seeds stuck to it. And so what you do is you wet it and put it in a sunny spot, and it grows. It became very, very popular for a while. All kinds of little animals and faces. Chia Pets. Billy Beer is introduced. So what's this all about? Well, this is Billy Carter, and his big claim to fame was he was the brother of President Jimmy Carter. So Billy got the idea of endorsing this beer that had his name on it. And on the beer it said, quote, brewed especially for and with the personal approval of one of America's all-time great beer drinkers, Billy Carter. Well, the beer only lasted 1 year and then it disappeared. By the way, Billy Carter didn't even like drinking it. He liked Pat's Blue Ribbon beer, but that's another story. The average annual salary for a man in 1977 was $14,943. If I convert that into today's dollars, that would be $78,757.83. And that's about what the average salary is in America right now. A new home back then cost $51,350. In today's dollars, that's a $270,000 home. An average new car costs $5,813. In today's dollars, that's a $30,637 car. A gallon of gas costs 72 cents. In our dollars today, that's $3.79. That's expensive. I paid $2.88 a gallon yesterday. So what were we watching on television back in 1977? And here are the top 5 TV shows ranked in order. Number 1, Laverne and Shirley. Number 2, Happy Days, the Fonz. Number 3, Three's Company. John Ritter, Joyce DeWitt, and the cute little blonde Suzanne Summers. Number 4, 60 Minutes every Sunday night. Love this show. Harry Reasoner, Mike Wallace. I always used to joke, you do not want to see Mike Wallace parked in your driveway with a camera crew. Charlie's Angels. And by the way, we never saw Charlie. He was just a voice on the telephone. Farrah Fawcett, this launched her big time. Kate Jackson and Jacqueline Smith. So what were the top songs of 1977? And this is based upon radio play, record sales, and jukebox plays. They have formulas that they calculate this. Number 1, Tonight's the Night by Rob Stewart. Number 2, I Just Want to Be Your Everything by Andy Gibb. Number 3, Best of My Love by The Emotions. Number 4, Evergreen by Barbra Streisand. This was the theme for the movie A Star is Born, which she starred in. And Angel in Your Arms by Hot. Who were the Academy Award winners in 1977? The big 3. Best Actor, Peter Finch in the movie Network. Best Actress, Faye Dunaway, also in the movie Network. But Network didn't win the Oscar for the Best Picture. That went to Rocky, starring Sylvester Stallone. Here he is on the steps of it. I think it's the steps of the museum or library in Philadelphia. I bet I'd like to have a nickel for everyone that's come here and stood here. What were the top grossing movies? Which movies made the most money in 1977? Big money makers, ranked in order. Number 1, Star Wars. Even though it came out in the middle of the year. Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher. Number 2, Smokey and the Bandit, starring Burt Reynolds, Sally Fields, and Jackie Gleason. Number 3, Close Encounter of the Third Kind, one of my favorite science fiction movies, starring Richard Dreyfuss and Terry Garr. Number 4, Saturday Night Fever, starring John Travolta. And number 5, a World War II true story, A Bridge Too Far. This had everybody in it. Dick Bogart, James Caan, Michael Caine, Sean Connery, Gene Hackman, Anthony Hopkins, Laurence Olivier, Ryan O'Neal, Robert Redford, Maximilian Schnell. I mean, talk about an all-star cast for a war movie. That was it. Good movie. So, who were the top singers or musical singing acts of 1977? And once again, this is based upon radio plays, record sales, jukebox sales. They have formulas that they calculate who are the top performers. And here they are. Number 1, the Bee Gees. Number 2, Donna Summers. Number 3, Leo Sayer. Number 4, Elvis Presley. Now remember, he died this year. His last concert was June 26th in Indianapolis, and he died 50 days later. Now, I live in a suburb of Indianapolis, and right now I am sitting exactly 12 miles from the concert hall where Elvis died, or where he performed his last performance. Fleetwood Mac, love this group. And now I'd like to play 2 of my favorite songs from 1977. Margaritaville by the fabulous Jimmy Buffett. And for you country western fans, Kenny Rogers' Lucille. Nibbling on sponge cake, watching the sun bake. All of those tourists covered with oil, strumming my 6-string on my front porch swing, smelling the shrimp, they're beginning to boil. Wasting away again in Margaritaville, searching for my lost shaker of salt. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know it's nobody's fault. Don't know the reason I stayed here all season. Nothing to show but this brand new tattoo. It's a real beauty, a Mexican cutie. How it got here, I haven't a clue. Waste away again in Margaritaville, searching for my lost shaker of salt. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame. I know, hell, it could be my own fault. Blew out my flip top, stepped on a pop top, cutting my heel, had to cruise on back home. But there's blues in the blender, and soon it will render that frozen concoction that helps me hang on. Wasting away again in Margaritaville, searching for my lost shaker of salt. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know it's my own damn fault. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, and I know it's my own damn fault. In a bar in Toledo, across from the depot, on a bar stool she took off her ring. I thought I'd get closer, so I walked on over. I sat down and asked her name. When the drinks finally hit her, she said, I'm no quitter, but I finally quit living on dreams. I'm hungry for laughter, and here ever after, I'm after whatever the other life brings. In a mirror I saw him, and I closely watched him. I thought how we looked out of place. He came to the woman who sat there beside me. He had a strange look on his face. Now his big hands were calloused. He looked like a mountain. For a minute I thought I was dead. But he started shaking, his big heart was breaking, and he turned to the woman and said, You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille, with 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. I've had some bad times and lived through some sad times, but this time the hurtin' won't heal. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. After he left us, I ordered more whiskey. I thought how she'd made him look small. From the lights of the barroom to a rented hotel room, we walked without talking at all. Now she was a beauty, but when she came to me, she must have thought I lost my mind. 'Cause I couldn't hold her, the words that she told him kept coming back time after time. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille, with 4 hungry children and crops in the fields. I've had some bad times, I've lived through some sad times, but this time your hurtin' won't heal. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something you didn't know about 1977.